Let's get started. I'm Arlen Meyers. I'm with the Society of Physician Entrepreneurs, and I work with MI10, which is a healthcare artificial intelligence education and adoption consultancy. We periodically, every month, have these office hours just to talk about various topics that have to do with healthcare AI. And I'm pleased to, so thanks for joining us, and I'm pleased to introduce Amir, who kindly is spending some time to talk to us about a topic that's near and dear to most everyone's heart, and that is money, how to get it, where to look, what mistakes you can make, et cetera, et cetera. Hi, Sharif.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sharif.
So, Sharif, you want to just briefly introduce yourself? Sharif is another member of the MI10 team.
Good morning. I'm a pediatric neurologist as well as CEO of Cognoa, which is a company that is in the digital health space. We created the first diagnostic for autism.
Great. So thanks for joining us. Okay, so Amir, let's start off a little bit with, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and sort of how did you wind up being a venture capitalist, particularly interested in artificial intelligence in healthcare?
So Arlen, thank you very much for being here. It's a real pleasure. Sharif, hello. So basically I'm a PharmD by education. I started pharmacy by education. First job I got is in McKinsey, so I moved very different path of healthcare, more on the healthcare management and consultancy. Then I built my own company. It was based out of Dubai. It was focusing on consumer digital healthcare, so the consumer side of healthcare. We did accessibility, and then with time we became very big in fintech. So I started doing SureTech, even some BNPLs, which is buy now, pay later for elective care. This company operates now in 8 countries. I made a partial exit there, and I moved to South California, where we're very, very excited about how AI could help fix the gap of the very big talent scarcity and healthcare provider scarcity in the healthcare space. One of the very interesting things is we are in the US here. We almost 30% of the population or who needs to see a specialist, they would actually wait for more than 30 days. These are the kind of things that you would see that you think, okay, in one of the best healthcare systems. Why is this the case? Why to take an MRI, you may need to wait between 1 month to sometimes 1 month and a half. PET scan, my sister-in-law is just recently diagnosed to do a PET scan, and she is in the middle of the treatment. To do a PET scan, she may need to wait for 4 or 5 weeks. And these are the kind of things that you ask yourself, we need to improve that, either by getting more and more healthcare providers, which doesn't look like it's easily happening because obviously of the obvious reasons. But then AI could come and fill the gap instead of Dr. Arlen making 2 or 3 outcomes in an hour. Can we get him to make 10 outcomes in an hour? And that was very, very exciting to me. And I thought that is an opportunity not to be missed.
Right. So I put a link. It so happens in today's Wall Street Journal, there's an article about something I wrote about why is it so hard? Why is it so frustrating to see a doctor? So this kind of speaks to that point, and it's a pretty interesting article if you have a chance to look at it. And you're originally from, or your heritage is from Egypt, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So let's sort of dive into this. Anthony, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here, Arlen. Good morning, everyone.
Oh, good. Hi. So Anthony, why don't you introduce yourself to the group? I think most of these folks know everybody, but just in case, I think Michael's new.
Sure.
So
I'm a practicing pediatric cardiologist with an AI background. I head up the MI4, which is an institute at Children's Hospital Orange County that focuses on AI in healthcare.
Great. So Anthony, say hi to Amir. Amir, say hi to Anthony.
Hello,
Hi,
Anthony.
Amir.
How are you? Nice to meet
Good
you.
to have you.
You guys live down the street from each other, so it's got to connect somewhere. Okay, so let's start off with Anthony. Maybe you could just give us a high-level overview of sort of the present status of healthcare AI. I mean, it's a big topic, but just generally, from the standpoint of investors, what do you think investors should know about artificial intelligence?
I guess to be totally honest, I'm just getting ready to give a talk, and the title is "Why AI Will Not Save Healthcare," and how to reverse that trend. I'm not happy with the trajectory, because I think the technology and healthcare continue to be misaligned, Arlen, and I think partly because not enough people in healthcare understand or know how to deploy AI, and then also a lot of vendors don't seem to really get what clinicians need and like to have. So I'm trying to, as you know, spend every hour almost trying to create a good interface between the two sides. And I think we could change the trajectory. Maybe why AI will not save healthcare is a little bit too far to the end of the spectrum. But I do worry that the resources are not being adequately used in a smart way. So I call that lack of intelligence about intelligence. So we humans need to be smarter. And there's a lot of not so smart money going into companies that either don't have the clinical wherewithal to figure out what to do, or too enamored with their own technology and not see how the clinicians work.
So again, why do you think that's the case? Why do you think that AI, big picture, main reason why AI won't fix sick care?
I'm actually writing up 10 reasons. And,
give us the top three or
top
two
three
or whatever.
Is I call this the Michelin chef problem. There are too many good resources, i.e. or AI experts, so the Michelin chefs, and we don't have the food. The food for the Michelin chef is either not good quality or not prepared. So we end up having AI services realizing, as they get knee deep into healthcare, that they spend a lot of time getting data prepared and curated, and not fully take advantage of AI. So, and there's also a lot of publications, but very few successful practices of AI deployment. So multiple reasons, but I'm still cautiously optimistic, despite the title of my talks in the current sort of group. I'm still cautiously optimistic that we'll go far.
Okay, and just a couple housekeeping item. If anyone in the audience has a question, please ask it when it pops up. Either put it in the chat or raise your hand, because we really want to have a conversation and discuss your needs. So Sharif, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so Amir, hearing that from Anthony, like when you're thinking about AI or even non-AI technology that you're going to invest in, how do you de-risk that investment? What are the things that you're looking for to go, okay, that is an interesting technology, that is an interesting AI solution? What are the things that you're looking for that tell you, oh, that's going to be a success, that might be a unicorn, I should put some bets on that when I invest?
Okay, so that's a good tee up to Amir. So Amir, what are you looking for? The question always comes up, like Sharif said, like, how come I didn't get the money? I gave you the stuff, I submitted my thing, and maybe you could just introduce and tell the group that you have a venture studio. So maybe you can tell the group, what is a venture studio?
So let me start by the latter, and then I'll jump into how investors, in my view, would look at it. So there's the venture capitalist, the venture capital world is basically they raise money, and they look at the winners, and they start deploying money at the winners at different stages of their lives. And there's usually the power law applies. So 1 or 2 companies should make for the losses of the other 8, and that is the structure. The venture studio basically defeats the power law. The venture studio basically says, one, we're going to be hands-on operators and help the entrepreneur, especially in the early days, to really build something meaningful using clients from other companies that the venture studio is investing in, accessing advisors for the investors, for the other companies who are using, leveraging central functions like HR, blah, 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 or leveraging functions central as data, machine learning engineers, and so on and so forth. So it's really jumpstarting the startup building and moving from investing in idea to investing in a process that could end up in an idea. And there's always something that even if you talk to any venture capitalist, and I've been quite active in the space investing, including myself in the early days, every single company that I have seen that is successful has actually gone through very clear pivot from idea 1 to idea 2 to idea 3. So it's really about how there's a process that you could learn from step 1 and go to step 2 and go to step 3. Like what Dr. Anthony was saying, you build something, I go to Dr. Anthony and he says, what is that? I don't like it. And then, okay, what do you want? We build something most probably still not exactly what everybody wants. And then after a while, you start evolving into that. So Venture Studio really try to jumpstart through this process by having a lot of muscles ready to deploy at any point of time. We are looking for people who are pre-idea, or looking for people with idea but without even a pitch deck, or with an idea with a pitch deck. If something started to have traction and there's lead presence in the market, which is the chasm of the product market fit, is something I think then it's the right way to go to the venture capital. So before the product market fit, that's where we play our role, and that's when we come in. Post the product market fit, that is, I think that's when the venture capital plays a better role.
Okay, so so Robin has a question, and that has to do with how do you pick the winners? So there are scorecards, there are predictive analytics, there are actually AI tools to try to predict the winners. What are the top of mind things to predict the winners from an investor, or develop the winners from an investor perspective?
So to answer this question, we basically divide the AI healthcare investments in our eyes into 5 categories. There's the life sciences, the medical devices and the robotics, the medical imaging, consumer health and wearables and all the related matters, and then the non-clinical applications. Think about revenue cycle management and billing and so on and so forth. I think in life sciences, the winners is very big. So we're usually still in believing that maybe 1 or 2 in each space going to be the winners, and the rest will not make it. In most of the 4 other spaces, we think that's not going to be the case. We think that there would be less successes to see unicorns and decacorns. So we actually think that we're going to see democratizing of the startup investments. Not only in healthcare, by the way, I think it's in all the spaces. Because of it's becoming very easy to build a company. 2, the level of technology IP is going down, not high. There are some companies that are building the foundation, the OpenAI of the world, the Gemini and. But startups building on that, even if they're building their own data models on the side, it's still something that is not going to take 4 or 5 years to build like what we used to see before. And hence, We think that the winners is really about identifying what niche in the market they're operating in. Obviously there's a real pain that they're playing around, but we want to look at people who are operating in a niche of the market, not going after a very big fat pie. So there's a niche. We want to see a go-to-market strategy that is very meaningful. Again, one of the very big, in my view, the very big issues in healthcare innovation is healthcare systems. It's going to take you 2 years, if you're lucky, to get into one of these healthcare systems who are being overpitched. I think that is also a very big burden. So I want to see how we're going to cross this barrier. Is there a place to get to the small and medium enterprises? Until this moment, almost 35% of every doctor in the United States operate in private practice. Is there a place there? Can I get some basic foundation there so I can take it from 0 to 1? So how niche is the market? How they're going to go after the go-to-market? And 3 is who's the payer? Every single time I see that the payer is an insurance firm, which is more on the life science parts and the follow, then I find a lot of resistance, and it's a longer term. I think that is a game for a VC, for venture capital. But for studios or for venture studios, we would love to see healthcare providers paying so we can distribute the risk. So if we can really prove that providing care is cheaper, that I don't need to wait for United Health or Cigna to tell me I'm going to bill for it. It's like me is actually going to pay for it because it's cheaper to do it through this new technology rather than what I'm doing now. I think that is very, very a third thing that we believe it's very exciting. It doesn't mean that others are not as exciting, but not for us.
Okay, so you alluded to various business models and the go-to-market strategy. So typically what happens is, or what I've seen, and I'm interested in what others think, somebody comes up with, first of all, they come up with a solution, not an understanding of the problem. So they winds up being a solution looking for a problem, which I think most of us at this stage of the game understand that's a big mistake. Second, this is like EMR 3.0, where you don't get adequate input from the end user. To your point previously, the idea 1 is not going to be idea 2, is not going to be idea 3, because as you get more and more end user input, you begin to pivot and modify and create a more tight product market fit. And the complaint with the EMR is, why didn't you talk to us when you built this damn thing? So how do you prevent that from happening with artificial intelligence? Our view, that is, those of us that are interested in this stuff, is there's still a significant data science engineer physician gap. We speak different languages, we have different cultures, we don't play nice together, there's innovation silos, there's all kinds of structural obstructions. So what are you doing specifically in your venture studio with your cohort to prevent that from happening?
So I can't agree more. One, physicians are, there are very two interesting people that mostly a guy like me is playing in the middle. One is the physician, very busy, overworked, running a very complicated system in terms of the healthcare provision, but more importantly, the craziness of the administrative part of healthcare. Again, staffing shortages is something I can't stop talking about. And then on the other side, the data science engineers are not typically if you build a continuum, they're not on the highly social kind of people. They're more of a scientist focusing on how they're going to build the data models and play around. So if you get a very, very busy user and a non-social again builder, it becomes very difficult to do that. So what we do is, one, we build advisory boards of physicians where we spend a lot of time talking to them and getting our data engineers and ML engineers in the room together to think together about what we're doing. And I think one of the values there is we also explain the hurdles, because sometimes the reality is that the first time I got into software game, you think that we think that it's going to take like a month to build, but it's going to take like 6 months to build. I think these also setting expectations is a very big thing. The second is really getting to the pain. So usually the pain is not every deck we see now, they start with the pain, but it's usually very top level pain. If you get very deep to understand what is the problem, I think you're going to find a huge difference between what the pain you're trying to solve, and what is the pain that is really needed to be solved. And I think to identify this pain, we believe a role of a product manager is very crucial to this space. I don't think data scientists, engineers, and physicians should talk together and that's it. I don't think that's enough. I think there is a role called product manager, which is translating what Arlen would say and Anthony would say to the engineers, and make sure what engineers are producing is also well explained to the other side. And again, this is a role that you would see in the product management is a function that you'll see all over, but in the early stage of companies, usually the CEO plays that role, the founder plays that role. So if the founder is a good product manager, I think you will build something meaningful. If he's not, I think it becomes very difficult. Otherwise, you will end up hiring a product manager, and those people come at a significant cost. So support and product managers are the two big things that we depend on.
Right. So the chat is reflecting the notion that doctors, whether they are in clinical practice, whether they are in clinical practice expanding into non-clinical roles, whether they have left clinical practice for whatever reason and are looking for their next side gig or the next adventure, there's this repetitive refrain: I'm an experienced doctor and no one really wants to seem to listen to what I have to say if you're an AI company or if you're a venture capitalist. So what's the problem? Brian, maybe you can chime in on this. So you're an experienced guy and you're looking for a gig, correct?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So Brian, just briefly, tell us your story. Briefly.
Former ER doc, some years in internal medicine and surgery, 5 years total residency training, a lot of experience. I saw the light of the new religion of data about 12 years ago. Was an epic trainer at Duke. I got a master's in predictive analytics at Northwestern University, trying to run around the track and do push-ups for the grand day when we can implement on the promise of big data, or whatever you want to call it, in healthcare. And, to some of your previous points in blogs and conversations, Arlen, I get prompts from people wanting to pick my brain and all this kind of stuff, but there's no front end setup where it's like, hey, we want somebody experienced in whatever, internal medicine or healthcare workflows to please sit in with us as we develop our product and give us the insider view. Is this going to dial into workflow okay or not? I don't even have to be employed for 10 years. 10 minutes would be nice, but there's got to be some value for me. You understand that, Arlen. You've said it before. So hopefully that was brief enough. I'm just not.
All right, good. So Amir, so the question is, if someone in this audience is interested in working with you, and incidentally, just in the spirit of transparency, I'm an advisor to Amir and his company. So if someone wants to be some role, a subject matter expert, let me know what you think and I'll pay you XYZ for it, a member of the advisory board, sort of moving up the food chain, maybe being a role in one of your companies that spins out, that kind of stuff. So what are you looking for, and how would you suggest specifically they approach you if you're interested or someone like you?
So I think it's music to my ears. The reality of matter, if you look at the world from the other side, most probably venture capitalists and startup founders, they think that it's very difficult to access physicians, and they think that physicians are not interested, and they don't want to have these conversations. So it's not like they don't want to listen. I think most probably they don't think they know how to open the door and start having conversations like this. I think the best way is just please use my email, amir.barsoum at invitrocapital.com. I'm quite responsive on the emails. We are looking for advisory board at the venture studio level. We're looking at particular companies, and we can match make the relations there. Subject matter experts in particular verticals. Would definitely love to do that. There's not a single company we launch without having physicians with an S who sits on our advisory board, or even investors. Even they come at a very small tickets because we want them to be part of what we do. So our first company, which is a medication management and software as a service to senior living, it's called Curenta. We launched it, and we basically took. We have on our board 3 physicians. One of them is the chief medical officer of Loma Linda Group, Ihab Durora. But again, how did I end up having him? He's a friend. So it's not very easy to basically go through these barriers. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'm quite responsive, and the reality is the need is there, and the belief that we need the physicians is very, very big. And I don't think we still live in the world where the venture capital and the financial side of this, they still believe that they are smart enough to do it alone. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think everybody has learned his lesson. So I hope this answers the question.
Great. Dr. Polizzi, you want to chime in?
I was just commenting that I've had a very similar experience to Brian. I'm a former CHIO for a large healthcare organization, practiced medicine for 23 years. I'm an AI enthusiast, certainly no expert, but with the help of Anthony and others and the American Board of AI in Medicine, did some certifications, got to learn the area. And my experience has been, as I've talked to these companies, I've gone to CES, gone to HIMSS, those kind of things. They're all very interested in, finding engineers and builders and data scientists, and say they're either not ready to or don't feel like a clinician would be valuable in their organization. And I sort of argue the contrary, that they're going to end up like a lot of companies, to your point, Arlen, that I've talked to, that seem to think they have the greatest solution for a problem I'm not sure exists. And their whole company is sort of built.
So, Amir, do you think that the mindset of AI company founders is different in this conversation than venture capitalists?
So before I jump this, I would like to jump in and say something that could be a little bit contrarian, but just to give you a sense. It took the United States almost 20 years, very active 20 years, to make electronic medical record a reality. Started with the HITECH Act in 2009, that moved with the concept, then it went into with some penalties, and then we get in 2016 with taking out the penalties and putting more incentives. And at that time, I would say healthcare providers with all the types were not really believers in how technology could change the game. and obviously the difficulty of building the electronic medical record, the usage and the adoption of the electronic medical record. But that has created a difference in mindset and view. I'm seeing now this kind of difference is going away. I understand that some could still see the challenge, but definitely I'm seeing this is going away. Today, we are in a room full of physicians, and we are talking about the AI, the potential of AI. I sit in the other room of the engineers, and they're all want to have conversations with doctors and physicians. Some companies, they don't, and these are the ones that's going to fail, hands down. Unless they are super smart, coming from somewhere that I don't know where, that they can build things without talking to their users and to the real adopters of this technology. And I think we're also seeing, so we have a role that is called entrepreneur in residence, where somebody would come up with an idea together, we test it together, and we stay for 6 months playing around with this until we have something that we say, you know what, it's ready to launch as a company, and then he becomes the entrepreneur and the CEO of this. So we have 6 entrepreneurs in residence now. 3 of them are physicians. 1 is dentist and 2 is medical doctors. So not even the world where it's only people coming out of MIT and Stanford are the ones who MIT is having the MBAs and the ones who are actually building these companies, but tons and tons of physician entrepreneurs we're seeing, very excited to do that. And guess what? I think the venture capital world love it. They love seeing that because you know what you're talking about. You're close to the space, and you are in the game. Again, some difficulties could happen. So you would find physicians very involved in many things at the same time. So he is practicing for 3 days a week. Yeah, that's not going to work. Building startup is not something that's on the side hustle. That it doesn't do that. But if a physician entrepreneur really want to get in, really think that he could build something big enough, and he's going to dedicate time for it, I think you'll find a lot of appetite from VCs, at least from us. Talk about us, definitely will be on the top of that.
So walk us through the process of applying to your studio. So just kind of walk us through how do you do that? Just go to the website and fill out a form, or what do you do?
So either apply through our LinkedIn job posts, or send us emails. Again, we're very responsive to the emails. I think the LinkedIn job posts are the best website. You'll find the career page there. Send at jobs@invitrocapital.com. There are forms also on the website you could go to fill, and there's something that says build with us. Just go there, fill the form there. So all of these options go to our VP of HR, and that basically filters them, and we start the interviewing process.
And then the interview. So then walk us through the interviewing. So if the first cut, so when someone applies, what's sort of the first cut criteria, or are there any? I mean, other than you're a physician or whatever, other than credentials or resume or whatever, what gets you to the next level?
So just to explain this, being a physician is not a criterion. Being a physician give the talent the leeway to understand more about the market. So during the conversations that we have, he has an advantage. So if being a physician doesn't translate to more understanding about the space and how we can use technology to build healthcare to fix healthcare problems, it's not a big addition. So the thing is really understanding what is the problem in the industry, and we look at 3 things. One, which is, again, physicians or not, but generally speaking, we look at winners. We look at people who has some winning under their belts. We believe that just some successes. So we're really looking at those. We're looking at what we call them the shepherds, not the sheep. So I will look for people who basically say, I have 2 or 3 people who are going to follow me if I do that, or I can convince them to do that. We like the people who are shepherding and kind of creating this type of leadership. 3, people who are hands on wheels, people who can deliver with their own hands rather than being directive. I think these are the 3 very big character traits we're looking at.
All right. And so you want people who can get stuff done.
Yeah.
The issue comes up, how much, so again, if you're engaging a healthcare professional, there's a difference between a clinical mindset and an entrepreneurial mindset. And there's a difference between understanding medicine and understanding business and understanding the overlap that is the business of medicine. So how important is it, and this gets to Anthony's previous post, medical students who graduate, never do a residency, and sign up for McKinsey and go out and tell people what to do. They don't know anything about medicine and they don't know anything about business, but they're McKinsey, and you used to work for McKinsey, right? So how much business, unquote, does a person need to know to be acceptable or a candidate?
It's really understanding the basics, nothing major. More than understanding business and concept that you learn in business schools, which I think it's, I did MBA in MIT. I would say the value that I got, again, it's an amazing institution, but the real value I got is the network and the friends there, rather than the education material. I'm not belittling the education material; it's amazing, but really the true value is the network that you get. So I would say, and then whatever education material that you get when you go to the real world, it crashes in the first intervention. So I think the basics, just understanding the basic, understanding how to build a, income statement. What is income statement? What is revenues? What is these kind of very basic things? And you don't need to go to business school to understand these kind of things. But really understanding about what is the pains that he is excited about. And seeing, I always say this, great entrepreneurs, they notice very well. They notice things in life. They notice what this guy wears and what this guy doesn't. They notice how the doctor sits. They notice how the reception of the hospital is operating. They're noticing. If you have this and you're noticing things around you, that's when you're going to pick up a pain, rather than a pain that is said by other one and then you notice it. So I think that is another big thing that we're looking at. And there are, when they have the 3 traits that I mentioned, and you add to them noticing, what you would find is he would be growing in the job. I don't care about somebody who's coming good but can never be great. But I would love to see a person who's starting off, but he could be great because he's learning and he's growing. And again, it doesn't matter the age, but that is the entrepreneurship is an independent role that has its own learning and understanding, very, very different than healthcare provider. One last thing, I always say this in health, and I think, by the way, there's one of the biggest hurdles that a healthcare provider is moving from his current role to being an entrepreneur. In a healthcare provider, you're sitting and your users come to you. Entrepreneurs, you go to your users. The difference is massive. How many no you will listen to, the barriers of getting through the healthcare systems. If somebody has this and understand that, I think you'll do great in the entrepreneurship place.
Yeah, I put up in the chat, if you haven't read The Entrepreneur's DNA or The Innovator's DNA, it's a Clayton Christensen book that essentially talks about what are the core elements of an entrepreneurial mindset. And one of them, which they say is actually the backbone of the DNA, is what they refer to as associating which you refer to as seeing things.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs see things that other people just look at. That's kind of the buzz line. And this has to do with just the big picture, everything that's going on in the world. How does what's happening in airline impact what's happening in aerospace, impact what's happening in healthcare? And it's sort of the whole ecosystem and how is all that? And the people who can connect the dots, and it's again, this job's saying, innovation's about connecting dots. That's basically what it means is you have a big picture perspective of the world and can see the picture in the dots. It's like the old Follow the Dots book. People just see the dots. But if you can connect the dots visually without actually taking a pencil and drawing it to figure out, it's a duck, then that is an entrepreneurial mindset skill. The good news is you can develop these things. It's the difference between a growth and a fixed mindset. So if you don't have that ability, you can develop it. And I would think that when you're looking for people to work with you, the more they can check off these boxes, the better off you're going to be and the better off they're going to be.
100%. 100%. And I think curious, you wrote it down in the chat, Arlen, the curiosity, the curious mindset that makes you notice things, and then you synthesize reading from notice 1 and 2 and 3, and then you synthesize your own reading. I think is what I would say great entrepreneurs would be doing, even if they don't have the best business education. So 100%. And they definitely buildable.
Okay, so moving on to another subject. So in your experience now, given the VC and investment landscape, and given this moment in time, interest rates, fundraising, dry powder, availability of capital, hype, all of the factors. So what is your assessment of the present state of artificial intelligence in healthcare?
So let me just give you some number that will help there. So out of the entire AI investments that happened in 2021, for example, healthcare's share in these investments was around 10%. In 2030, we anticipate it's going to be around 25%. So we are definitely, AI in healthcare is growing way faster than most of other AI verticals. Expected to be pretty close to 200 billion at 2030, or plus or minus. Between 180 to 200 billion of investments. So with again, that includes everything. They include medical devices, robotics, and everything. So with that in mind, there's a lot of money going to healthcare because of the severity of the pains, because of the staffing shortage, whether it's healthcare providers or administrative talents, because of the aging population that needs is growing and growing and growing more and more and more. And because of what AI presents of a solution that wasn't there 3-4 years ago, without the explosion that happened in the last year in generative AI and the other ones. We basically, so I think that basically means it's here to stay. It's growing. I think the innovation world is, the innovation side of that is quite adamant about investing more and more. And I think that will allow more and more physicians to come and play a very active role in that space, because the space needs it. It needs physicians. They can't only be on the side of the users, otherwise adoption will not be the case. Still, there are some barriers. I think one of the biggest barriers in my own view is the big data monopolists. Because again, we are operating in the game of data. So without accessing data and playing around with it, it's going to be very difficult. So the big data monopolists remains to be a very big component. And by the way, hence the go-to-market angle that I mentioned at the beginning of the call is a very important angle when you think about what kind of idea and how to solve the idea, what kind of pain and how to solve the pain. So we're seeing this growing, and I'm seeing more and more physician entrepreneurs, physicians coming in as chief medical officers in startups, not in established entities. And I'm seeing, we used to see in the world that you need to find the CEO who's the MBA from Harvard or MIT or Stanford, whatever, plus the CTO. I think we're going to see quite frequently the third element, or he's one of these two, who's a physician or a healthcare provider who understands the industry very well.
Or all three in one person. Because I've sort of described the new triple threat as the clinician, technologist, entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And thanks to people on this call, we're seeing not a lot of those folks, but I mean, the push is more and more toward medical students, residents, training programs, all that stuff. But to get more specific, so it's obvious that artificial intelligence is attracting in healthcare is attracting venture capital. But if you break it down into three basic categories, operations, finance, and clinical, the latter has lagged for many, many reasons. Because most of sure, there are clinical applications of artificial intelligence. And most of them have to do with radiology and pattern recognition or other specialties, ophthalmology, retinal scans, that kind of stuff. Sure. But if you look at the issues that are facing CEOs of hospitals in the face, to your point, what their pain points are, how do I make more money, keep heat, light, and electricity on? How do I reduce my costs because of inflation, interest rates, availability of capital? How do I keep and grow people to take care of the expanding population that needs care? And how do I avoid getting hacked so it's not going to cost me $10 million or in the chart case, billions of dollars to fix it? So my question is, are you seeing the emphasis in operations and finance versus clinical operations when it comes to investment?
100%. The answer is yes. We're seeing that, but there's always a very big question when it comes to technology adoption. Is what do I need to do to make this technology working? So if I need to go to a healthcare system to sign a deal with me, and then I need to integrate with their Epics or Cerner or whatever, and that's going to take 3 to 4 years. So what happens, venture capital come and tell you, do it first, even if you're not generating revenues, and come to me and then we can look into it. That is exactly the major problem that makes them go towards the concept of life sciences or the diagnostics or what we see in the medical imaging and others, is because it's honestly, I think it's very weird to say it out loud, but that's the reality. It's easier somehow to get through FDA approvals than to get through this extremely complicated healthcare systems that don't open these doors. And it's not because the problem is just because the size has made this very, very difficult. And hence, venture capitals also as well, if the team has access to the right executives who could help open these doors, then it's something that is worth looking at. So operational finance that's the main factor. From a technology perspective, one of the fantastic things that Gen AI is doing is the capacity to create what we say autonomous solutions. There is the analytics kind of part of doing things that you understand more the data. And then you go on until you start seeing augmentation where, you do 1x and then you can do 5x. And then autonomous, when solutions that could do things without me touching them. We have, for example, a company called Jessica.ai, which is an AI recruiter that does recruitment without the involvement of any person in the game. So technology and solutions that could build things from that perspective, I think that's exactly what the CEOs are looking at, because that will reduce cost. It will reduce burden on their already short staff. Think about what's happening in nursing and the craziness that happens in that space. So bypassing the barriers of the healthcare systems and integrating with the big software solution providers in these hospitals is one. to building autonomous solutions, not augmentative solutions, the auto drive rather than the adaptive cruise control. Is the second key component, and we're seeing definitely people, and we're seeing venture capital investing in those. You started to see in note taking, for example, revenue cycle manager start to see the $100 million kind of rounds, the $150 million kind of rounds that we didn't used to see before. And it's not only one company, but you're going to see many of those. So, PitchBook sends almost every 2 or 3 days, I get one company doing either revenue cycle management in a particular space or note taking in another space, getting very big rounds on that, because they are taking significant time of the admin, significant time of the healthcare providers while he's doing the note taking. So yeah, I think we're definitely seeing that, and I'm only expecting this to grow exponentially.
Okay. Cheshi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, CECI, are you with us? I want to leave a little time at the end for questions from the audience based on this conversation so far. Sharif, you want to ask anything, or Robin? Harvey, what are you?
I was going to say everything discussed was on point, and it's so nice to be able to pick Amir's brain. I think we're very fortunate to have such a awesome speaker for our office hours.
Yeah. So Amir meet Harvey, Harvey meet Amir. Harvey is interested in ChatGPT and just large language models and its use in medicine. So Harvey, what are your comments or questions based on what you've heard?
Going to the investment portion, I spend a lot of time when I invest personally, looking at the team. That tells me a lot. And I just wanted to say it because there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, I can build this thing or that thing. And they're just either leveraging an API. They're not really creating anything. I'm looking at more as, is there a doctor on the team or a healthcare professional? Is there someone with venture capital experience that has had successful exits? Is it being led? Is the CEO someone that can take it to that current stage? Or, is the whole team just not ready? And they're just, say they have a good idea, but, as we know, every month or literally every week, something changes. So you may have this amazing technology today, but tomorrow, case in point, Sora now is pimping out their model to all the movie studios, So all these people that were investing it in video is gone overnight. And so that's why I'm very careful on which teams I'm betting, how I'm betting. And so I'm encouraging everybody to take a look at the team itself, because they may have a okay idea, but if they have a great team, they'll be able to pivot quickly. So anyway.
Yeah.
Can't agree more. Can't agree more.
So this is referred to in the startup literature as adaptability. So when you're putting something together, basically it's desirability, feasibility, viability of the business model. But more and more, because we're working in such an uncertain, changing environment, and to the previous point, that what you're thinking about now is not going to be what happens later on. So the problem, you have to be able to adapt to the changing environment to create the product market fit and scale it. So I don't know how do you measure that? So when you're looking looking at the team who is presenting a proposal to you to be part of the studio, yes, you can look at previous experience and exits, but the problem is a lot of these folks have no experience in healthcare. They created an e-commerce channel to sell shoes and made $1 billion. And now they're saying, well, that's not a big deal. I can fix sick care. What's the big problem? So my experience is, one, they don't understand the complexity and the difficulty of sick care because they don't have experience in the domain. Two, they don't have startup experience. They were the CEO of a $100 million company and they want to get involved, and it's a different mindset. It's a different personality. Somebody asks them, go change the copy machine or make some coffee. They go crazy. Where's my parking space? You mean you don't have a corporate plane? It's a different environment. So are you running into that, or what do you do to screen the team? Amir?
Let me tell you a story. One of the teams that we have met, they're building an AI for revenue cycle management and billing automation for dentistry. He did the public health degree in Harvard. On resume, killer talent. Basically, in the meeting, I asked him how many dentists that you have talked to who are not your friends, not the 2 or 3 friends that you know. And he said, no, why would I talk to another friends? I only talk to my friends. And I was like, in my mind he's not an entrepreneur. Because if I ask my close friend that we go out together, and my dad and my mom and my cousin, everybody would give me a hug most probably, and amazing idea, and you just go for it if they like it. But if you ask somebody who doesn't know me, that's when you start getting the real feel. So if you don't have it in you to go out, check it in your clients and your customers and your users and your future potential partners, you don't understand the craziness that happens in the world. 2 is, I'll say something that's a little bit controversial, but I would always ask this question: how much are you expecting to be paid or to pay yourself when we give you the first check? And this question usually answers it all. Because the difference between, whether we like it or not, but healthcare providers are on the higher end of pay grade in the country. When you are a startup entrepreneur that is at seed round, you are barely making a living. Do you expect that, and are you ready for that, or you're not? That's also another big part. Maybe if he's not, then I'm expecting to see him putting significant investments from his own money in that space. So this is another, in our view, how you go to the market, and are you really going to the market with yourself? 2 is that. 3 is, who did you convince to join you without dangling a lot of money? So what kind of team did you build? Which is what Harvey has just mentioned, whether the structure of the team, but that is basically the 3 big things that we look at.
Yeah. Sharif, maybe you have the last say. So you're a CEO of a company, you're putting together the team, and you already have. So what's your answer to this question?
Yeah, the thing I was going to kind of echo with Amir too, and what you were saying, Arlen, is I think it also holds true sometimes when we get people from, big pharma or even healthcare. They're so ingrained in the way that they did it in that previous life that my experience has been sometimes they move too slowly, they're too risk adverse, and then oftentimes they're not capital efficient, right? So there's this tendency that I've seen where it's like, well, I'm going to get this agency to do this thing for me. And it's like, no, you got to roll up your sleeves and scrappy do it, for much less cost and much less time. So there's always that pressure, I think, within especially early stage startups, and even honestly later stage startups. If I look at the demise of some of the ones that I thought were going to be great winners, what happens is they start getting very loose with their capital. They hire too early, too fast, too many, and then they self implode. So I think that's another one that just anyone working in the space, I think you almost always have to kind of operate like you're in seed Series A mode as much as possible.
Well, we're running out of time, unfortunately. My last comment would be that all of this conversation, I think, needs to be seen through the lens of the scale of the stage of development of the company. So the needs of a startup are much different than the needs of a scale-up, are much different than the needs of a grown-up. So if you're getting involved in these kinds of things, you need to understand what are the critical success factors of the company at that stage of development. Because it's a different skill set, it's a different team, it's a different mindset, there are different key performance indicators, capital efficiency, money, all that stuff. So, well, this is a great conversation. Amir, thanks very much for your insights. And hopefully you'll be getting people contacting you and deal flow and contacts and whatever. So thanks to everybody, and we'll
Thanks
see
very
you
much.
next time.
Thanks, Arlen. Thanks, Sharif. Thanks, everybody in the call. It was a real pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.